Well, I appreciate you guys hopping on. I don't know if anybody else will trickle in, but so this is week 2 of the weekly Four Fires Tribe Call. So hopefully it'll be something that continues to grow and we just have a good conversation every week. So last week, Sean, you were here and we talked about the people fire and so the way that I want to structure these calls is I always want to pick a fire. So this week we're going to dig into the professional fire. And I'll open us up in prayer here in a second, and then I'll share a couple scriptures that I think are very applicable to our professional life. And then I'm trying to gather every week a question or two that are real questions that I hear from people. So I've got a good one today for us to talk about. I think you guys will have some good input, and I've got some thoughts already. I actually asked AI to give me some input that I think is pretty good. So let me pray, and then actually Jim and Sean, I'll let y'all introduce each other so that we know who we're talking to. So let's pray really quick. Father, I thank you for this time. I thank you for the technology to be able to have this conversation. I pray that you would be present with each of us in this conversation and help us to grow in our professional fire and be more like the man you created us to be. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right. So Jim, where are you coming from? So Sean can know a little bit about you.
Okay. Today I am in LaGrange, Georgia, where we have lived here for 25 years, a little bit more than 25 years, my wife and I. Excuse me. Make that go away. We have 4 kids and 5 grandkids. I am a tax mitigation specialist, different than a CPA. I don't do tax returns. I work with people to help them plan their best strategy as they move into the retirement years to avoid giving the IRS a penny more than they absolutely have to. There are a bunch
Can
of
appreciate that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. There's a bunch of great strategies out there. Not all of them fit everybody, but I sit down and help people time when to take Social Security, how to make sure that they don't hurt themselves on having to pay too much for Medicare. A lot of different things. And then as far as tax deferred accounts, IRAs and 401ks, I help people figure out what's the best way to go about accessing those funds in retirement without giving the largest portion to the IRS. Again, there are a lot of strategies used there. I'm a member of Church of the Highlands. I go to the Opelika campus. Been involved in several small groups there. And again, my wife Nancy and I have been married for 31 years. Yeah, be 32 this year. And
Congrats.
I am 67 years old and still working because I like it. I have fun. I've told people for years I've been in sales my whole life, but underneath I was a frustrated accountant. I love spreadsheets. I love things that line up in numbers where they balance on both sides. You can put double underlines and you go, yes, all right, we're good. And so my whole world is kind of left-brained. In other words, if it doesn't make logical sense, it doesn't sit well with me. Luckily, my wife is 100% right-brained and left-handed. And, it's not that we complete each other, but she balances me out. When I'm so sure of something, she's got that gut feeling about things. So
It's good.
sometimes she holds me in check and says, wait, have you thought about this? And so, anyway, that's kind of me.
Sweet. Sean, what's Jim need to know about you?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the download, Jim. I feel like I know you very well now. That was, I feel like you've done that a few times. Um, Sean Springston, hail out of Social Circle, Georgia, about 40 miles east of Atlanta, out I-20. My wife and I have been married this year 27 years. I have 3 children and 3 grandchildren myself. We will be celebrating, so like 27 years of marriage, I think, give or take, this year. Don't tell her I don't remember what that is. I'm a logical guy as well too. I like the numbers to line up, and if they don't, something's wrong. I can tend to have a little bit of anxiety over that. My wife is definitely the balance, likewise, to what was just mentioned there. I've been in construction my whole life. It's all I've ever known since about 5 years old. Painting shoe mold and putting light switch plate covers on with my dad, and grew up in that industry. I'm currently vice president on special projects working with Strack here in Fairburn. It's been a great opportunity there, building a team out on the general contracting side of things. That's been my main forte over the last 15 years is the general contracting side of that business. Enjoy what I do, love what I do. Working towards an early part-time retirement situation by 55, so that I can be a little bit more freelance with my knowledge and my ability to help in the industry, as well as enjoy the things I like to do. My passions are woodworking and the outdoors. So that's a little bit about me.
Cool.
Commercial, residential building, both.
Commercial primarily. The mainstay over the last 15 years has been green space improvements, urban infrastructure, utilization of underutilized space. The parks and trails and those type of things has been a big mainstay. I've built a lot of the Beltline work over the years, and things to that effect. Parks. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You ever gonna with your woodworking, or do you want to do you have a business? Do you want to build a business and sell what you build?
Yeah, so I actually do have. I don't have a quote unquote business because it's not licensed any longer. But my primary business that I had years ago when I was self employed was True Line Construction, and I had that business for 10 years. Went into 08, 09 and the crash, and that
Yeah.
sucked for everybody as it did for me as well. But I carried that name over, and it's True Line Woodworks with an X. And I do custom furniture and custom pieces to order. Mhm.
Okay.
Awesome.
Cool. You have a whole shop there at the house? Whole
Oh yeah,
garage?
it's
Yeah.
a shop. No, yeah, I've got a 24 by 36 shop out there, set up full woodworking shop. Yeah.
Sweet.
Nice. Very nice.
Well, you guys know me. So, Sean, Jim, and I actually go to church together. So that's how we
Awesome.
know. That's how we know each other. And then it's cool that because we both drive south to Opelika to go to church, but we live in LaGrange.
Okay.
So yeah, we're both right here in LaGrange. So again, I appreciate you guys hopping on. I'm really excited to dig into this. So, so just a brief reminder, Jim, I feel like I've shared the four fires with you maybe once or so, but the whole four fires is a framework for us men to think about how we're building all four of the essential areas of our life. And that's our purpose fire, which is our relationship with Jesus. It's our people fire, which is making sure our family and friends relationships are healthy. It's our physical fire, making sure that we eat healthy and we exercise and making sure that we're strong, and healthy. And then the fire we're talking about today is the professional fire. And that's about what is it that God has gifted you to do? What's your craft? And then how are you becoming excellent in that to earn the most amount of cash that you can for your family so that you can be well resourced, which helps us be generous and helps us be a blessing to others where we're not poverty stricken. Because when you're building those four areas, we call it being a four-dimensional man. And I believe that a four-dimensional man is the most effective for building God's kingdom because he can give out of strength and be a blessing to others. So that is my mission, to be four-dimensional myself and help as many men as I can live that lifestyle too, because I want men to be strong and ultimately be more effective for building God's kingdom. So professional fire is what we're going to dig into today. A couple scriptures I had. I cut it down last week, Sean. I realized I had too many scriptures because I read I think it was like 8 or 9 of them. So I cut it down today. But the first one is the one that I always go to. It's Genesis chapter 2, verse 15. So from the very beginning, we see that God created man and he put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and watch over it. So just a base theme is we were created to work. So that's why the professional fire is so important. And then I also like to go to Job chapter 1 when I'm thinking about the professional fire specifically, because so I'm just going to read the first 5 verses. So it says, "There was a man in the country of Uz named Job. He was a man of perfect integrity who feared God and turned away from evil. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters. His estate included 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 female donkeys, and a very large number of servants. Job was the greatest man among all the people of the East. And so what I like most about this is that it names all 4 fires except specifically the physical fire. But he was a man who feared God and turned away from evil, so he had the purpose fire down. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters, so he had a great people fire. I guess the servants could have been friends too. But then he had 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, and 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 female donkeys. So he was super rich. he was like the farmer of all farmers, it seems like. And so anyway, I read that and I'm like, well, you can absolutely be 4-dimensional, where you are very successful professionally and you're a man who fears evil, or fears God and turns away from evil. So I always love to point that one out. And then Deuteronomy chapter 8, verses 11 through 14. That one, if you guys aren't familiar, is one that I refer to probably the most whenever I'm sharing the professional fire with someone. Because it goes through, and the whole chapter's titled Remember the Lord. But it says, be careful that you don't forget the Lord your God by failing to keep his commands, the ordinance, and the statutes I'm giving you today. When you eat and are full and build beautiful houses to live in, and your herds and flocks grow large, and your silver and gold multiply, and everything you have increases, be careful that your heart doesn't become proud and you forget the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the place of slavery. And then you skip to verse 17, and it says, you may say to yourself, my power and my own ability have gained this wealth for me. But remember that the Lord your God gives you the power to gain wealth in order to confirm his covenant he swore to your fathers as it is today. So I always, like, we're designed to work. You can be like Job, who was pretty 4-dimensional, I think. And we should never forget that our abilities and the wealth that God blesses us with comes from God. So I always try to recenter myself, because there's over 2,500 scriptures throughout the Bible that talk about wealth, work, and possessions. And I think God gives us so much instruction about this area, because specifically for men, it can so easily consume us and become our identity. But it's still a blessing from God. We just have to make sure that we relate to it in the right way. So, and then one last thing I wanted to point out when I think about the purpose or professional fire is that in Matthew chapter 20, verse 28, Jesus says, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life a ransom for many. So because everything, all of our gifts and the money God gives us is a blessing from him, the reason that we have those things is to serve others and provide value to others. And so if Jesus is the king and he came to serve and not be served, then how much more should I, a servant of the king, serve others and provide value to people? So the professional fire is about serving others, serving God, and providing value. And then I imagine you guys would agree with me on this, that the professional fire, specifically like the money side of it, is definitely not a zero-sum game, but it's a infinite sum game, or a positive sum game, where just because Jeff makes money doesn't mean Sean can't make money. In fact, it's more like a candle. If I've got the candle with the flame and you guys don't, and I reach over and light your candle, it doesn't take away from my flame. So anyway, I just like to remind myself of all of these things, like I mentioned about like the way that I was raised. Like I still have to like make sure that I don't fall into like, oh, it's bad, or like I'm greedy or evil, or anyone who succeeds professionally. It's a blessing from God. It comes from God. As long as we remember that and we use it to bless others, then it's all good. Any thoughts?
There's a lot to unpack there, Jeff.
For sure. So, any big thoughts, things that stick out to you from those scriptures?
Yeah. Go ahead if you want to jump in.
I insist. Go ahead, Sean.
No, I think not that I am going to be the opposition in agreement or disagreement here. I just would like to say I often see people immediately express their gratitude in what they've received or gotten or gained, and immediately give that glory to God. And it can be a dangerous place, because the enemy would love to bless you with things to get you off course as well too. He knows the word just as good as anybody. Matter
Yeah.
of fact, he probably knows it better than you do.
Yeah. I
I
believe
will
that.
tell you the one thing about the enemy is he can't foretell anything, but he knows everything that's happened and everything that's been written.
Yep.
So a lot of times, I listen very carefully and very intentfully when somebody tells me how they've been blessed and this, that, and the other, and how they've done this and given that, because a lot of times, unfortunately, we do that in a way that is selfish without realizing it. We're doing that because it makes us feel good, not because we're called to charity and to love. Now, the benefit of charity and love, I do see being a huge benefit to us spiritually that makes us grow in our inner man as we should through the effectual working of God's word. But it can't be the other way around. It can't be, it makes me feel good, so I spiritually feel good. It can't be that way, or it's probably the enemy working in your life more so than anything. And I think it's a very, very dangerous pitfall. So before I go off on a rabbit hole on any of that, I'll open the floor back up.
Yeah.
You said something that caught me, right between the eyes. The idea that again, I think back to Jesus talking about the Pharisees praying in public and bringing a bunch of glory on themselves for being so holy and all. You'll never know if I do something for somebody unless you happen to be right there at that moment. Whether we're cleaning up somebody's yard on a serve project or something like that, you may see me physically do something.
Mhm.
But if I buy an appliance for somebody because they need one, the only person that's going to know is them and the appliance company that delivers the stove or the refrigerator or whatever it is. I just think that trying to bring glory on yourself or trying to make yourself feel good about something like that, I think that is of the devil. I really do.
Yeah, like perfect examples. What is it? Luke 18:10, and I think there's a couple of other references in Mark as well too. The publican and the Pharisee. Look what I've done. Look what I've done. Look what I've done.
Hmm.
And I've done the same thing, if not more, if not better. And a lot of times we don't realize that in our flesh as much as we probably should. And I think that's why Paul also calls us to the daily renewing of our mind, because if not, it is very easy for us to gratify flesh and think that we are doing the right thing for the right reasons. And they may very well be for those things, but there's no spiritual edification and there's no growth in the inner man, which unfortunately ends up pushing us into a place of self-service rather than of God.
Yeah.
That's
Another
so
thing you
good.
mentioned, Sean, was the idea that giving gratitude and having gratitude for the things God has blessed you with. You have to be careful, like you said, of saying that in front of others because number one, it seems like you're trying to put yourself in the spotlight. But even worse, what if they have not been equally blessed? Then they wonder,
They
why
fall
isn't
under a
God blessing
condemnation
me?
or
What am
yeah.
what am I doing wrong? God's blessing him, and I see the chinks in his armor because I'm
Mhm.
around him all the time. Why isn't he blessing me?
Yeah.
And yeah,
Well,
so
that ends up, with down a whole nother path. I'm sorry, I
yeah,
didn't mean to cut you off.
no, that's good.
It's I think that ends up down a whole nother path of the dangerous pitfall of, I'll call it the American gospel today, and Christianity in a lot of realms today. Um, we have taken what was a free gift of God, and we've turned it back into a checklist of do's and don'ts, and you need to come to the altar every Sunday and repent and this, that, and the other. And that immediately puts works back into the basis of who we are and how we operate, which is a very, very, very dangerous thing to do, is mixing the kingdom gospel with the gospel that was given to Paul, which is the mystery. It was by grace through faith alone, that not of works and that not of yourself, lest any man boast.
Yeah,
When we put the works back on that, to your point, yes, condemnation falls on us immediately because we're not designed to carry that.
right. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's misunderstanding the book of James as a call to work.
Yeah,
as
it's
as
not.
as opposed to what it was really intended to be
That's
was
right.
you should feel that need to because of who you are now becoming.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because of who you are through Christ, that's why you work, not you work because, oh, I'm trying to get there
Right.
to
I want
earn
to
it.
earn my salvation. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we all say that very, very, you guys are smart men. We say that, but unfortunately, a lot of times we put ourselves in positions and align ourselves with people that don't see that, and it's hard to communicate at those levels sometimes because we as men, and I'll just say men, meaning us in the world today, want to be able to say, I did something to gain something. You could never do anything. Neither could Israel. All three times they screwed up the plan.
Yep.
Yeah.
They can't live by the law, and we can't either. We can't. There's nothing in us that's good at all that could ever produce the gift that was given to us on the cross by the finished work of Christ.
Yeah.
Nothing. And
Yeah.
and if we place ourselves in that I must do to please God realm, my gosh, you just live under a torment and terror that is so unnecessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How
So I'm
close-
curious, what would y'all's response be to when someone, if I remember right, the example you shared was like someone's like, wow, that's so great, and then the person says, God's really blessed me, yada yada yada. What would y'all say is the proper response there, so that you're not creating any sort of, like you said, condemnation, where that person feels condemned because they're not being blessed, or where you're just like saying, oh yeah, look how much God's blessed me through my hard work. What's the proper response there?
I think on the front end, you've got to be very, very low key about that. Just say, I'm just so thankful for the things that God has provided in my life. And not get specific. I mean, look at my house, look at my car, look at my bank account. No.
No specifics, yeah.
It's being humble in the fact that God has chosen to bless you. And I think if you leave the details out, it helps you to avoid that enmity, that jealousy, that fear that God somehow has blessed you, but not me.
Right.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times, and I'll you may call me a heretic on this, but I'll say this: a lot of things that we attribute in today's generation of grace that we're under, a lot of things that we give God the glory for are by our own works and by our own doing. We've put our hands to a lot of work. You're in a place in your career right now because you've studied to show yourself approved in that category, and you've accomplished that. God is giving you the strength, the power, the grace, the wisdom, the peace, and the presence of His Holy Spirit in your heart and life to be able to lead and guide you through all that. But you still put your hands to the plow, right? And you did a lot of work to help you get there. And God has given you the strength to do that. And I think we misplace the blessing sometimes in that He blessed me with a physical piece. I don't think He blessed you with a physical piece of something. I think He blessed you with the capability, the strength, the endurance, the power that dwells within you and your inner man to be able to accomplish those things you put your hands to, and give Him the glory for that strength.
Yeah, I heard it said this way one time. If you pray for a hole, God doesn't give you a hole; He'll give you a shovel.
Yeah, I think the putting the hands to it piece is very important. And I'm not saying that you're going to hell because you think differently. Golly, that's not what I'm saying at all. I just think a lot of times in modern Christianity today, if people are tied up in that the wrong way, they look at a performance-based structure because that's how modern Christianity sells that in a lot of ways. With do this, don't do that, do this, don't do that. And you hear the checklist and you hear this and you hear that and you got to do this and you got to do that. And I won't get down in the weeds of it. But when you start putting those pieces and parts, it becomes a do to a please God situation, right? And pleasing God is to believe on the one thing we're supposed to believe on, and that's the finished work of the cross. All the other things are products of how we operate in that and the indwelling of the Spirit within us.
Yep. That's good.
Good. Cool. Do you have any more thoughts? If not, I got another question we can dig into.
Go for it, Jeff.
Okay. So this actually came from a guy who's going through the 30-day ruck right now, and Sean, you've done a ruck. So Jim, a 30-day ruck is a program we do with the Four Fires where you commit to doing a weekly task list for 4 weeks. It's 30 days and you're doing tasks in each of these four fires and you're choosing to abstain from things that are unhealthy or waste time. And it's just a 30-day challenge that we encourage guys to do. And then you meet every week for a Zoom call for accountability and encouragement. So really cool. We can talk about that, another time. Anyway, his question was, he's like, so he works from home, and I think he's an accountant, finance guy for a really large engineering firm. And, so he works from home and he's like, right now I'm really on this path to, grow my career. And so I'm working a ton, but I'm really finding it hard to unplug professionally because my workplace is my home. So he's like, when it's the few hours in the evening, he's got a young daughter and a wife, and he's like, I'm really finding it hard to give them like undivided attention, because he's like, while I'm talking with my wife or playing with my daughter, my head's still just spinning about all the things I need to do and what I'm working on. So his question was, what are some practical things that guys do that help you unplug, to create that undivided attention? So really this is a question more about the people fire. It's like, how do you unplug to make sure that you can separate these things? Because he's doing a great job. I'm like, dude, you're killing it. Like, keep crushing it professionally. But anyway, I told him I would ask the group and see if I could get any good feedback. So what are y'all's thoughts? What do you do to make sure that you are giving the other areas of your life what it needs so that you're not 24 hours a day only thinking about professional growth?
That's an easy one for me because I've worked from home for 6 of the last 25 years.
Okay.
Sorry, all but 6 of the last 25 years.
Oh,
And so for 19 of the last 25, you have to have a specific room in your house that is your office.
okay.
You have to close the door while you're in there working. Everyone in the house has to understand that Daddy went to work. And there's no knocking on the door crying. There's no mommy won't listen to me. There's no, Daddy, I can't get the TV set to work. And then if you want to re-engage during a lunch break, fine. But then you go back into that room, you close the door. At the end of the day, when you call it quits, make sure that physically, mentally, that you are through with your day. If you have a separate business phone, it stays in that office. It doesn't go downstairs with you. You close the door, and the first thing I do after I close that door is I walk outside and take a short walk around the house, and do a mental and physical transition from work life to home life, and then I come back in the front door and do my best to put this away until the next day. And it's part of that secret is you've got to have a stopping point for what you're going to do today in your work life. I am not going to do it. I don't care if the phone rings, unless it's an absolute emergency. I'm done with work until tomorrow morning. And if you don't have that demarcation, you will continue to blend these things, and neither one of them will be fully one way or the other. It'll just constantly be a problem, whether it's the TV set being broken or the phone call from a client at 11 o'clock at night. You've got to draw a line.
I think that demarcation piece you mentioned is important, and I think I couldn't add much to what you just said. I think there's some really great, just practical ways to address it. I'm actually working from home this afternoon because I've got my daughter sick. But I would say too, some of the things that I have picked up, even when I worked from the office, I would still bring work home. It wasn't so much just working from home was an issue is I was still bringing work home. And some of the practical steps that I took there was just simply jotting down a list that day of the main priorities that needed to be addressed. And before I walked out of the office, making tomorrow's list for whatever I wasn't able to get to, so that I have a plan for the next day in place and not feel like I'm leaving it and never going to get it done, or I've got to deal with it and think about it. Tomorrow will come with tomorrow's problems for sure. But I'm only as good as what I can accomplish, in that 8 to 10 hours. After that, my brain starts getting to mush anyway. And I think realizing that we're really only good for so many hours of a day in good, profitable work without spinning out. is step one, and then step two is just having some practical steps of writing down what you didn't get done and what we're going to work on tomorrow, so that you can walk away from it and know that list is going to be there when you step in the door tomorrow.
Yeah. One thing we don't have as non-hourly employees that the 8 to 5er has is we don't have that workplace that we walk out of and we disengage with, because we, for all intents and purposes, own our own business, if you will. And while you could still be being paid as a 40-hour-a-week person, but if you've got more responsibilities beyond that, you feel this constant need to be serving that work master. I hate to call it that, but that's kind of what it is. You've got to find a way to walk away. You've got to cut it off and say, see you tomorrow. And I think you're talking about doing your list for tomorrow. I do the same thing. You have to have a plan for every unfinished piece that's still on your mind before you walk out, and that way you know that it's handled, and you don't have to spend time with your family wondering about, did I finish this or finish that?
Yeah. No, and I think you can apply some of that unfinished task and some of that work masterpiece to what we were referring to earlier on the spiritual side of things, and that I'm not doing good enough. I'm not pleasing God the way I need to. I mean, all of that kind of applies,
Yeah.
because as a man, we want to please, we want to complete, we want to do, we want to conquer. Those are our main objectives in who we are as men, and without the appropriate things in your life that structure that and allow you to separate yourself from it, it quickly becomes your god.
No, it's that left brain thing. It's the unfinished checklist.
Yep.
It's I've got to get everything checked off, and an X through every bit of it so I can walk out of here and feel complete. But I've got those 3 things that didn't get done that I'm going to have to push to tomorrow, and I can't let those dominate my thoughts for the next 7 or 8 hours with my family. Those have got to wait till tomorrow.
That's right.
It's great. It's so funny because you guys are just like checking everything off the list that I had on this paper. Everything you're saying. There's a couple other things that I did want to mention too. One of them is that I think a way to, like, I just think about like a power plug to just like unplug for a minute, is to recognize that the skills that make you really great professionally are oftentimes different, or what makes you a really good dad or a husband. Because at work, you're direct and you're solving problems, you're fixing and you're executing things. But then when you get to your people, you got to listen and you need to ask and notice how they're feeling and encourage. So it's a completely different thing. So I feel like that's a notable thing too, where it's like, hey, when you are saying, all right, here's my few hours that I'm going to spend with my wife and kids, you have to like, I think you do it on that walk like you talked about, Jim. Like you go on that walk, or you sit quietly in your truck for 5 minutes to remind yourself, all right, things are different in the people fire. The way that you win in that area is different. You don't just like show up and start like solving problems. So I thought that was something that I find to be true. And another thing was, what was it? Jim, you mentioned it, like the hard stop boundary. And I really like the creating a specific room. Like, so for this guy who's asking this question, have that room where it's like, hey, you don't work in the living room. You work at your office. So that's good. I'm making, I don't know if y'all have seen me typing. I'm not distracted doing something else. I'm typing out what we're talking about. And then the other thing that was that actually ChatGPT threw out was protect your sleep. So just like you want to say, you protect, hey, I only work these hours. It said, protect the time that you're sleeping, because an exhausted man is a distracted man. And so I thought that was, I'm curious what you guys think. Do you guys prioritize your sleep, making sure you're getting a certain amount of hours?
I would say the older I get, the more I realize quality sleep is probably one of the most important things you can do for your health and your mental health all the way around, period.
Yep.
If you do not have quality sleep, everything else is set up on a house of cards.
Yep, I agree completely. I was asking President Trump to quit talking about 10 times last night. Enough, buddy, enough. It's bedtime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I think I had one more. thing. Oh, okay, yeah. When it comes to switching from the professional to like switching into the people fire time, uh, it just threw out like establish a sacred first few minutes of the time with your family where it was like make sure you're making eye contact and physical touch and hugging and or kneeling down to your kids level and like eye contact. So anyway, I thought that was good too, because like when you're like this all day with with professional task and then you get to your family and you're like, how was your day? Good, good. And so it's kind of just like a slow yourself down.
Yeah, I like the
Well, especially if your spouse's love language is quality time, and
Yeah,
you're not giving quality time if you're checking off a quick fast list and say, "Hey, I'm just gonna go sit out back for a while." No,
yeah,
no, 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 no,
yeah, an analogy comes to mind there. A lot of times when we're walking away from that professional fire, we've brought a bundle of logs to stoke that fire and keep it burning while we're gone. I think the important part there is to not leave them all there and then run in empty handed into the next fire. I think we need to take a few logs with us to that point
yeah,
and initially rekindle those coals a little bit with some fresh logs of encouragement just to kind of open that up, because I think tending to that fire is just as important. And I think a lot of times we get exhausted, to your point, at the end of the day, problems, problems, problems. And as men, we're problem solvers. We walk in the door, the last thing we need is another problem, but we forget that we're switching fires when we do that. We're not still in that work fire where I'm bossing and correcting and fixing and directing, so on and so forth. But to come in with the logs of the right fuel for the fire, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
yeah,
it's taken me 30 years of marriage to finally come to the point that my wife is not looking for solutions.
Yeah.
yeah,
She just wants to be heard and validated. It's she's not looking for a solution. She just wants a voice, an ear to say I love you and I understand what you're going through. Let me know what I can do.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
Because
Yeah.
I'm like you. I'm a fixer.
We
That's
all
all
we
I
all
do.
are. That's our
Yeah,
nature.
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I don't think anybody wants to beat that down or beat that out of us either. I think they just want us to have a different headspace when it's the right time to do so, right?
that's right. Yeah,
Because chaos will come, and that fixer will be needed in that household and in that family unit
You
just the
bet.
same.
Yes.
But
yeah,
and there'll need to be there'll be a port in the storm for sure when that happens, but majority of the time spent is at sea, and we're working through those processes, and until you need that port, just be the strength and the person they can rely on to listen.
Yep.
yeah. We work so hard to be professionally excellent, which is solving all the problems and being excellent.
Yeah.
But we need to also be relationally excellent, which requires oftentimes different skills.
Yeah, I mean,
So it's,
as married men, we can probably all say that at one point or another, our wife has looked at us and said, "I don't work for you."
Yep. Yep. How many times have I heard her say, "You need to go back to work"?
Yeah, yeah. She's like, "Hey, I don't know how you're handling your folks over there, but I don't work for you, so
Yep.
yeah, yeah,
this ain't
man,
working."
yeah,
Yeah, I used to have a long commute. I worked in Buckhead for about six
Yeah,
years. Living in LaGrange, that's a nice commute. It can be
yeah,
anywhere from an hour and 15 minutes to 5 hours, depending on the day.
yeah.
mm,
And during that period of time, I could completely wear
Hmm.
myself down to the point where I was completely out of work mode. And then
Hmm.
for a short period of time, I lived about 3 minutes from the television station at Panama City Beach. And
Yeah,
I'd walk in the house and da 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 da. We need to go do this. She said, "Go back to work.
yep,
Go for a
yep.
run. Do something.
yeah.
Get out."
Or go back out and drop work at the front door and then come back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
she knew it took time for me, so she said, "Put on your running shoes, and I'll see you in 30 minutes. Just go."
Yeah,
And something as simple too as we use, how was your day, and how was your day, just like kind of these casual type of blase statements. I would tend to say too, the better thing to do in respect to the question you were asking about this gentleman is if she's asking you how your day is and everything, don't burden the situation with what's going on in that. I think there's a level of like, hey, I'm going to hold back here.
yeah,
Let her explain her day far more than you explain yours,
yeah,
right? Because I know personally, if I tend to start explaining my day, I'm going to get off on a tear, and then I'm right back into work mode, and I have have absolutely messed that up.
Yeah,
That's good. That's real good.
yeah, yeah. My
Plus, yeah. Go ahead.
my dad, and then also there's a lyric from a country song that says the same thing. My dad kind of taught me. He's like, "Hey, sometimes you don't have to tell your wife everything you're thinking. Like use your own discretion as a man of
Yeah.
like what.
What's
Don't
profitable and what's
Yeah,
not.
yeah, yeah. I don't want to burden her with the things, if I think it's, not going to help her out in the given time. Now, you do have to balance of like, I don't want to throw up red flags because I don't ever share with my wife, because
Yeah.
my wife loves the details. Like she wants to know she wants to know every snack I had, every single thing about my day, just because she loves me and she wants to
That
know
is
the
not my
details.
wife.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, so that lyric it's a Cody Johnson song. I don't know if y'all, the
Yeah.
country singer, and it's, don't always tell her everything you're thinking is the lyric of the song. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah. Okay. I had one more, uh, crap. I lost it. I do have one question I'm looking at, but I just had another thought on what we were talking about and I lost it. Um, Well, we kind of shifted into talking a lot about the people fire from the professional fire. So for the last couple minutes, I do want to jump back and ask you guys. This is something I actually thought of. I was listening to a podcast on the way to the office this morning, and the podcast I was listening to just made me get on this train of thought about inner vows and things from our experiences that shaped our beliefs, specifically when you're thinking about our professional fire, where we've created inner vows where it's like, I will never do this, or I will always do this, because of probably a negative experience that happened. And so just an open-ended question that we can maybe just leave with this. Nobody has to answer if you don't have anything, but are there any inner vows that you have that are negatively impacting your professional life from developing your craft perspective, or from a financial perspective, that if you really think about it, maybe it takes a third party to help you see it, because oftentimes we're blind to like what's hurting us. But I don't know, just a question that I thought about, and there were some things that I'm like, I wonder if that's hurting me in the long run, because of an experience I had where it's like, the thing that I thought about was, I know a guy who, his dad was so strict on a budget that he wouldn't buy him a baseball glove and a pair of cleats because it wasn't in the budget when he was a kid. And now that guy says, I will never have a budget and I will always buy whatever I want whenever I want it. And so when I look at that, I'm like, that inner vow to him, it's unfortunate that was such a wound from his past. But that inner vow of, I will never have a budget and I will always figure out a way to buy whatever I want when I want it, I think negatively impacts him, because he's created a lot of financial stress for himself from a debt perspective, and financing things that maybe he shouldn't have bought at the time because he wasn't ready. So that's an example that I thought of. So anyway, that might just be a thought for you guys to leave with. I don't know if anything jumps out at you, but have you
Yeah,
ever heard of somebody talk about like inner vows? You ever heard that
yeah.
phrase?
I mean, it maybe not in those exact words, but I think people describe that in a lot of different ways. The I will always and the I will nevers.
Yeah.
I'll back up just a second. You kind of opened with the professional fire piece, and then we ended up in the people fire piece. I just want to say, the more my professional life has grown, the more I realize my professional fire is my people fire, because I don't operate without people
Yeah.
day in and day out. So I would say they merge and dovetail very well, and it's extremely important to realize that in your professional fire, or you won't go real far.
Well, all three of us are most businesses are like, if you don't have people, then you don't have a business.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
yeah,
we're in the people business, definitely.
We're in the people business,
that's
believe it or
right.
not, at the end
Yeah.
of the day, and it's how we please them and how we meet the standards they require of us, and likewise.
Yeah.
And then I'll just add back to the always and never statement. Early on in my career, I was a prick.
Yeah.
Right? I'll just say it. I knew everything. I didn't care. We were going to do it my way and get out of my way. And if you can't do it, And even if I only trained you for 5 minutes and you ain't got it figured out, you're an idiot. Get out of the way. I'll do it. I think we probably at some level have all gone through that in our lives. I will say this: the one thing that I have vowed internally is that I don't always, and I will never, are not things that I operate under. The only thing that I commit myself to always is to be open to somebody else's interpretation and to somebody else's opinion, because I don't know it all. Other than that, there are no internal vows in that respect, other than just moral character pieces that you just won't cross lines on. Those exist, right?
Yeah.
But as far as growth and understanding from a professional side and from a people side, is just I always want to be somebody that shows charity and that is open to hear somebody else's position, because I don't know it all.
Yeah.
Can
That's
I
good. So
can I ask a follow up to that?
Yeah.
Earlier on in your career, in your life, you were a super jerk, difficult to deal with. Did your realization that you don't know everything coincide with a change of heart with regard to how you dealt with people? Did all of that kind of happen because of that hinge moment where you said, well, maybe I don't know it all? Even though you may not know of the exact moment that happened, did they kind of coincide, though, when you said basically you figured out that you don't know what you don't know and suddenly you became a different person?
Yeah, it was definitely over the course of time,
Yeah.
and
Wasn't that?
a lot of self reflection. I think the big piece that was missing was the self reflection and the renewing of my mind and kind of focusing on where those things needed to be, and what I was actually working to try and achieve, and who I was doing that for. A lot of it was from a very selfish place. Well, which is why I think majority of people that tend to be that way, if you really peel back the onion, what it boils down to is a selfish desire. And I think the separation probably was just a realization that I'm doing way too much for me and not enough for others.
Hmm.
And I think that's probably where that change would be more understood as a pivotal understanding.
Yeah. And the reason I ask that is because I was the same way as a young man. I knew everything. You couldn't tell me anything, and basically, very similar to the things you're talking about. But mine was not as much of I didn't know what I didn't know. Mine was more a defense mechanism because I was afraid I didn't know everything. And so the mask was I know everything, and it was a defensive mask
It's
for
funny.
fear that somebody might find out that I'm not a genius behind the mask.
right.
And finally
Yeah.
realizing that, I made the same transition, not like that, but over time to realize that, well, the next person doesn't know everything either, and neither does the next person. And
Yeah.
slowly, I'm not there. I'm always getting better every day, I hope. Thank you, God. But that was my transition.
Yeah.
And
I think that's really important to see that. Um, Majority of time that takes time. That takes hard lessons learned,
yeah,
and learning from those lessons. I see a lot of people that are doomed to repeat because they're unwilling to study the problem
yeah,
that got them to where they are.
yep,
Yeah. Yep.
To that same respect. So yeah, I think that's very, very important. The selfish side of that was, probably, like I said, my biggest, and most impactful, attribute that was causing or hindering growth in my life. Not to say that I've got that all figured out, but what I will say is
journey.
it created a mask, and that mask, I'll just call a spade a spade. We all learned how to BS really good and be the smartest guy in the room.
Yep,
And what I learned really quickly, well, I say really quickly, very slowly over the years, was the smartest guy in the room is usually the quietest. And I was the exact opposite. So I learned just life lessons, just kind of learn to step back and let other people speak and hear what they're saying before you interject and dominate the room.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the old saying goes, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
You're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
You
growth
need to,
happens in that room next door where the smarter people are.
yeah,
That's
you
right.
need to get to a smarter room.
Yeah.
That's funny.
People ask me how I hire. I said, I hire people that are smarter than me.
Yep.
That's my goal. In life now, I don't want to be the smartest guy anymore. I want to rely on the people that are smarter than me to help make the right decisions for us all to collectively move forward.
Yep. That's awesome.
Yeah. I do think it's funny that if the inner vow is I will never say always and never. Yeah.
Probably got some more unpacking for that person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll call BS on that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sweet. Well, we got just a couple more minutes. Again, I appreciate y'all's time. I think this was a great conversation, and this, y'all probably had to accept that I'm recording these, and then I'm just posting them on the Four Fires YouTube channel, so that people who couldn't attend can go back and listen to it like a podcast. So, I appreciate y'all's opinions, because I really do think this was a good call and can be valuable for other people. I'll send it directly to the guy who had the question about unplugging professionally, because he just feels like it's hard to do that.
It is.
One last thing, I'm going to share my screen really quick. You guys see the Four Fires website?
Yes.
Yeah, I got you.
Cool. So if you go to the events page, Jim, this kind of applies to you. Sean, I think you might be too far away, especially because it's a Friday evening. But this Friday evening out at West Point Lake, Jim, I'm doing a monthly. This is the first monthly tribe gathering for the year, and it's simply a hangout for guys in this community or in this region. I'm going to grill some burgers. We're going to throw a football, and it's a great opportunity just to meet some other guys in the community. And then, of course, I'll give some next steps to help kind of get guys plugged into all the things that the Four Fires nonprofit is doing. So anyway, I just wanted to let you see that, and then you can send this link directly to people and RSVP just to let me know how many burgers I need to cook. So anyway, just wanted to show you that. And then no obligation, but I would always appreciate you guys. If you got a guy in your life that you'd like to share the Four Fires with and kind of get him involved, I would appreciate all that kind of help pointing more people to it. Because like we said, we're in the people business. So anyway. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate your time, and we'll be back. I'll be doing this call every Wednesday at 10, and next week we'll pick a different fire. If you do have any questions about a fire, you can. I think you guys might be in the Four Fires Tribe online community. I allow people can go in there and type questions and stuff. So if you guys have questions, you can either email them to me or text them. You guys have my phone number. That way we have real life questions to talk about in future calls. So
all right, man. Well, thank you again for your time, and appreciate you being intentional to make this happen. So
Absolutely.
Jeff, thanks so much. And Sean, nice to meet you. Look
nice to
forward
meet you as well.
Doing more of these.
Absolutely.
All right.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, guys. Have a
See
good
you
one.
guys soon.
Okay,
Bye.
take care. Bye-bye.